Amina stood in front of the cracked mirror in her small bedroom in Kano. The mirror hardly showed her full frame anymore. Her wrapper barely reached around her waist. She tied two together just to cover herself. Her arms were soft and heavy, her face round and puffy. Even bending to tie her slippers left her breathless. Down the corridor, her husband Bashir shouted, "Amina, hurry up, we're already late for the party." She wiped the sweat from her forehead and forced herself into a green lace gown. The gown had fit her perfectly 2 years ago, before her third pregnancy. Tonight it clung to her like wet cloth. The zipper refused to close. Her 11-year-old daughter tried to help, but the fabric ripped at the seams. Amina's eyes filled with tears. At the party hall, the band played traditional music. Women with slim waists danced in glittering dresses. Men laughed and clinked glasses. When Amina entered holding Bashir's arm, the whispers began. "Look at how fat she has become. She's eating all the money. That man will soon take another wife." Bashir dropped her hand and walked ahead, pretending not to know her. He went straight to his secretary, Hawa, a slim girl in a red dress, and held her waist on the dance floor. People laughed openly. Amina stood alone near the drinks table, clutching her handbag like a shield. She could feel their eyes slicing her. That night, Amina sat on the edge of her bed. She had pulled off her tight gown and sat in her slip, sweat drying on her skin. She heard Bashir come home late, the smell of perfume on his shirt. He didn't speak to her. She whispered to herself, "Is this how I will die? A fat woman nobody wants?" The next morning, she didn't go to her tailoring shop. She walked to a small mosque on the outskirts of town and sat quietly. The imam's wife, Mama Zainab, a big woman with kind eyes, saw her and came over. Amina burst into tears. Mama Zainab held her and said, "My daughter, you are not finished. You can rise again." Mama Zainab told her about a women's group that met at dawn to walk, pray, and exercise. At first, Amina laughed. Exercise? She hadn't jogged in years. But something inside her said, "Go." What happens when Amina takes that first step? Will she find the strength to change? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe for next chapter where Amina begins her transformation journey. You won't want to miss what happens next. The next morning, before sunrise, Amina joined the women. She wore an old kaftan and slippers. The women started jogging. Amina couldn't jog even 2 minutes. She clutched her knees and wheezed. A boy on a bicycle shouted, "Mama Jumbo!" and rode off laughing. Her face burned with shame. But Mama Zainab put her arm around Amina and whispered, "Ignore them. One day they will clap for you." Day after day, Amina came back. She changed her food. She stopped eating fried plantains and sugary drinks. She drank water, ate beans, vegetables, and small portions. She started walking, then jogging, then doing small stretches. The weight dropped slowly, first 2 kilograms, then 5, then 10. But Bashir only mocked her more. "All this jumping up and down, who will marry you? Hawa is slim without stress." Amina said nothing. She taped Mama Zainab's words on her mirror. One day they will clap. It had been 10 months since Amina started her morning walks. By now her body had changed so much that even her children stared at her in the mornings. Her cheekbones stood out again. She could wrap her old wrapper twice around her waist. But inside the house, she still wore big gowns. She didn't want Bashir or the neighbors to know how far she'd come. Amina would sneak into the bathroom, close the door softly, and switch on the dim bulb. She would stand in front of the cracked mirror and stare at herself. The old Amina was fading. A new Amina was appearing. Her collarbones showed again. Her arms were firmer, her stomach was smaller. She ran her fingers across the loose folds of skin and whispered, "Almost there." But to everyone else she remained the same, quiet, fat Amina, wearing long wrappers, big tops, and headscarves. Bashir didn't notice the shrinking figure hiding under the fabric. He was too busy parading Hawa at his office parties. Each insult was like coal in her heart. But instead of crying, she smiled and wrote it down in her journal under the heading Fuel. At dawn, she would leave the house in the dark before the cock crowed. No one in the compound knew where she went. By the 8th month, even her children noticed. "Mommy, your arms are small now." She put a finger to her lips and said, "Shh, don't tell Daddy yet." She was planning something. Amina is hiding her transformation. But why? What's her plan? Comment your predictions below. Smash that like button if you're rooting for Amina. Subscribe for next chapter where secrets start to unravel and tension builds. Hit that notification bell. Neighbors started whispering, "Have you seen Amina lately? She's walking faster now. Her cheeks are no longer round." Some said she was using charms. Some said she had surgery in Lagos. Hawa, hearing the rumors, became restless. She started sneering louder at Amina when she visited the house, flaunting her slim waist and new jewelry. One evening, Amina came back from her jog drenched in sweat. Hawa was seated in the living room, legs crossed, sipping tea. Bashir sat nearby, scrolling his phone. Amina walked past them silently, her long wrapper hiding her body. Hawa smirked. "Some people are running like goats every morning. It won't change anything." Amina glanced at her briefly, smiled and climbed the stairs. That smile made Hawa's stomach turn. Something was changing. By the 10th month, Amina had quietly saved money from her tailoring business. She bought a fitted dress, something she hadn't worn in years, and hid it at Mama Zainab's house. Mama Zainab clapped her hands when she saw Amina in it. "You're ready," Mama Zainab whispered. "Not yet," Amina said. "The time is coming." At home, Amina's patience grew. She treated her children gently, cooked healthy meals, laughed more. Bashir began to feel a strange distance, though he didn't understand why. The power balance in the house was shifting slowly, quietly, like a river changing course beneath the earth. One humid night, Bashir came home late, reeking of alcohol and perfume. He found Amina sitting on the sofa reading a book about nutrition. Her wrapper was loose, her face calm. He stared at her for a moment, noticing something he couldn't name. "Why are you smiling?" he barked. "Because my life is changing," Amina replied softly without looking up. He hissed and stormed off to his room. But that night, he tossed and turned, his mind replaying the sight of her slim wrists holding the book. Something about her was different. 2 weeks later, an invitation came to the house. It was a women's health conference at the Grand Palace Hotel, the same hotel where Bashir had once humiliated her. Amina had been chosen as one of the guest speakers after Mama Zainab sent in her story to the organizers without telling her. When Amina saw the letter, her hands trembled. This was it. The night before the conference, Hawa came over again, wearing a tight red dress. She laughed with Bashir in the living room as Amina came downstairs to get water. Hawa sneered. "Amina, I hear you're jogging up and down. Don't break the road with your weight." Bashir chuckled. Amina looked at him with a long, calm stare. For the first time, he looked away. She turned to Hawa and said quietly, "Laugh now. Tomorrow you will see me." Tomorrow is the day. What will happen at the conference? Will Amina shock everyone? Drop Team Amina in the comments. Like and subscribe for next chapter where Amina makes her grand entrance and the tables finally turn. Don't miss this. Before dawn, Amina knelt and prayed. She thanked God for strength, Mama Zainab for guidance, and her children for patience. She brushed her hair, applied soft makeup, and slipped into the fitted Ankara dress. It hugged her new figure like it had been sewn on her skin. For the first time in years, she saw the Amina she remembered, strong, beautiful, unafraid. The lobby smelled of polished marble and expensive perfume. Chandeliers glittered above, cameras flashed, and guests whispered as cars lined up outside. Amina's taxi stopped at the entrance. For a moment, she stayed inside, hands trembling on her bag. "Madame, you come down?" the driver asked. She nodded, exhaled, and stepped out. The cool morning air hit her skin as the hotel doors opened automatically. The crowd paused. Her Ankara dress clung to a body no one had ever seen before. Sculpted arms, a slender waist, curves redefined. Even her gait had changed. Steady, powerful, and slow. Whispers spread through the hall. "Is that not Bashir's wife? She's slim now. Oh, Jesus, she looks like a model." Inside the conference hall, Bashir had been invited as a guest of the sponsor. Hawa sat beside him, fanning herself and scrolling her phone. When Amina stepped onto the podium, Bashir's jaw slackened. Hawa's phone slipped from her hands. Amina stood behind the microphone. The spotlight lit her face. She took a deep breath and began. "My name is Amina Ibrahim. For years I was mocked for my weight. For years I believed I was unworthy. But today I stand here to tell every woman, especially mothers, that we are more than our bodies." The crowd roared in applause. Bashir stared, cheeks burning. Hawa dug her nails into her lap. Halfway through her speech, Amina pressed a button. A large screen behind her lit up. Video clips rolled, Hawa mocking her at the market, Bashir laughing during one of her humiliations. Secret footage Mama Zainab had captured. Gasps filled the hall. Amina spoke again. "Sometimes the people closest to you will plant shame in your life, but shame can become fuel, and fuel can burn a path to freedom." She ended her talk with tears streaming down her cheeks. The hall rose to its feet, clapping, whistling, cheering. Reporters swarmed Amina. Women hugged her, crying. Influencers posted her pictures online with the hashtag #JoAminaInspires. The Minister of Health invited her to collaborate on a national campaign for women's wellness. Across the room, Bashir tried to push through the crowd to reach her. "Amina, Amina, wait!" But security held him back. Hawa slipped away, covering her face from the cameras. Amina turned once, saw Bashir's outstretched hand, and for a heartbeat, their eyes met. He looked smaller now, like a man whose walls had finally collapsed. She smiled faintly, turned to the minister, and walked away. Victory! But is this really the end? What happens to Bashir and Hawa now? Comment your thoughts, like if you're celebrating Amina's triumph. Subscribe for the final chapter, where unexpected twists reveal there's more to this story. Turn on notifications. That night, Bashir sat alone in his car outside the hotel. His tie was loose, his eyes red. He watched Amina's face trending on every social media platform. Comments poured in. From mocked wife to national icon, Amina is our hero. Bashir scrolled and scrolled until his hands shook. Hawa had vanished from town. No calls, no texts, just silence. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He replayed every insult, every time he'd compared her to a sack of rice, every look of shame he'd thrown at her. The public exposure wasn't just the footage. Amina had bank transfers, chat screenshots, and voice notes proving Hawa and Bashir had plotted her humiliation together. Instead of using them to destroy him instantly, she released a statement. "This is not about revenge. This is about women knowing their worth." Still, the evidence made its way into the press. The town buzzed. Hawa's family disowned her. Bashir lost his contract with the company that had invited him to the hotel event. Amina accepted the government's offer to run a nationwide health and empowerment program for mothers. Clinics and gyms began popping up across the country under her foundation's name. She hired nutritionists, counselors, and even stylists for postpartum mothers. Her social media grew into millions of followers. During an interview, a journalist asked, "Will you forgive your husband?" Amina smiled gently and replied, Some wounds are easily forgotten, while some take time to fade. But Amina still kept one secret, a secret no one, not even Mama Zainab, knew. Every night she received anonymous messages from a private number. You think you've won, but the game is not over. One night, as she prepared for a major televised event, a package arrived at her hotel room. Inside it lay an old wedding picture of her and Bashir with a red X drawn across her face. She stared at it, her hand trembling. Who sent it? Bashir? Hawa? Someone else? Her phone buzzed again. You will pay for what you've done. Amina looked out the window at the city lights, her jaw tightening. She wasn't the frightened woman anymore, but she knew the next chapter of her life would test her strength even further. 3 months later, Amina stood on stage at a national women's summit, her foundation now supporting over 10,000 women across Nigeria. As she spoke about resilience and self-worth, she noticed a woman in the back row staring at her intensely, a woman who looked strangely familiar. After the event, the woman approached. Amina, she said quietly. My name is Rahma. I'm Bashir's first wife, the one he divorced and erased from history. We need to talk. Amina's world tilted. Bashir had told her he'd never been married before. What other lies had he told? And more importantly, was Rahma the one sending the threatening messages, or was she another victim in a much larger web of deceit? As the two women sat down in a quiet corner, Amina realized her transformation journey was far from over. The real battle was just beginning. The end, or is it? What secrets will Rahma reveal? Is she friend or foe? Drop your theories in the comments. Did this story inspire you? Smash that like button. Subscribe for more powerful transformation stories. Share this with someone who needs to know their worth. Comment Part 2 if you want to see what happens next in Amina's journey. Thank you for watching. Remember, you are stronger than you know.